What's up, soccer friends? Welcome to Kickback Committee's Open Mic. I'm your host, Susannah Fuller. I'm so glad to have you all here. This is our second episode of Open Mic, and if you're new here, this is what we're all about. I'm going to be having conversations with some of my friends in the sports media world who don't necessarily cover soccer, but have a connection to the beautiful game. Last episode, we chatted with my very good friend and co-host of the Sports Gossip Show, Charlotte Wilder. We hit on the influence of the 99ers, Boston's new NWSL team, and the World Cup. Just really a great conversation. So please go check that out. But that's the gist of Open Mic. We're going to talk to folks about their sports journeys and explore those soccer through lines within those journeys and have a lot of fun while doing it. As a reminder, Open Mic is just one of the podcasts that fall under our Kickback Soccer Media umbrella. We've got Soccer Wise. That is a must for any MLS, NWSL, or US soccer fan. We've got First Touch Weekly, dedicated to bringing you the biggest stories surrounding the World Cup. And of course, Kickback Committee, hosted by yours truly, featuring an incredible lineup of soccer voices offering all kinds of insight and commentary. And the big news last week, drum roll, we welcomed two-time MLS Defender of the Year, Walker Zimmerman, to the fold. He's currently featuring for Toronto FC's backline, but he's been making appearances across all of our shows, so you definitely do not want to miss that. So excited to have him on board. So make sure you download and subscribe to all our pods, follow us on the socials, and you can now find us on SiriusXM. You can search for us on the SiriusXM app or catch us on select days on SiriusXM FC. So for today's episode, I am unbelievably excited to welcome in someone who I consider sports podcasting royalty. Okay. Mike Ryan has been the key cog in the behemoth that is the LeBatard show engine for years. Truly just one of the OG sports podcasts that found a way to combine sports commentary, social commentary, humor, hot takes, and amazing banter all at once. I think he started there back in 2005 as an intern and eventually rising up the ladder to serve as executive producer. And today he is still, I would argue, the leading voice of that machine, bringing exceptional levels of insight, opinions, and intelligence to that show. He also happens to be a huge soccer fan. I actually met Mike Ryan back in 2020 before the world shut down. So we hosted a pregame show for ESPN ahead of Inter Miami's first MLS match. It was March 1st. In LA against LAFC. They ended up losing 1-0. And the plan for that season was that we were going to do a bunch of pre-games for MLS. But we all know what happened just a few weeks later. So the Mike and Susannah show never really got legs, thanks COVID. But working with him for even that one game was such a blast. It was clear just what a pro he was, how much he loves the game of soccer. He's Miami born and bred, so he loves Inter Miami. He also happens to be a Chelsea fan, which is questionable, but I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of that in our conversation. But overall, just an all-around great guy and a phenomenal talent. And I am so honored to welcome him to Open Mic today. So with that, let's bring him in. Mike Ryan, welcome to Open Mic. It's been a minute since we've seen each other, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, it's been pre-pandemic or like early onset pandemic, because that was certainly a thing that was going on the last time we hung out.
Okay, so I talked about it in the intro. March 1st, 2020 was Inter Miami's first ever MLS match in Los Angeles. You and we had big plans, my guy. Like, we were going to do all these pregame shows for ESPN that season. And I believe, I can't remember when the world shut down, but it was like 2 weeks later, right?
It was. The very following week, Miami played DC United. And I think at halftime, they were up 1-0. My friend Fermo got up and left to check on his sick wife. And as soon as he left, the entire world just essentially ended as we knew it.
Yep.
All these lockdowns were introduced, and then Inter Miami ended up losing 2-1. So I blame my friend Fermo for ruining the planet. But yeah, it was exactly like 1 week later that the sporting world and the world and life as we knew it was about to change forever.
it is wild to think about. It feels like another lifetime ago. There's like pre 2020, and then like this blurry area, and then I feel like maybe we were kind of getting out of it, and now I just kind of want to like crawl back into a hole, considering
I
everything
know,
that's going
but I
on
do.
in the
It
world.
actually COVID like messed up everybody's timeline so
Completely.
bad. And this is the first time that I'm talking about something as it pertains to COVID where I'm like, wow, that was a lifetime ago.
A lifetime
Usually
ago.
I'm like, wow, has it already been 4 years? Because everything, the day in and day out monotony of living life, people have a difficult time with timelines.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a very clear line of demarcation,
Oh
that Inter
God.
Miami LAFC game. And that feels like a lifetime ago. I know you've been through so much since then. Crazy, but it's great seeing you.
Oh, thank you, my friend.
And I think I speak for everybody in the media space, and I'm sure you get it. Like, yeah, such an inspiration what you've
Oh,
done. We were all thinking about you when we heard the news, and the way that you've battled this with such grace and strength has been truly admirable.
oh, thank you. That really means a lot. Yeah, it's been a hell of a sort of 8 months, but I'm on the other side of it, and it feels so good, and things are starting to kind of feel normal-ish
Mm-hmm.
again, and feeling like myself again. And yeah, I can't thank you and all the people that like have supported me through this, especially in the sports media world. Like they've just been had my back the whole time, so that means a lot coming from you. And I'm so delighted to have this conversation with you today, because you're one of my favorites. You're just one of my
Ah,
favorite personalities in the sports media world. So I want to pull up a picture, Douglas, of that day, March 1st, 2020, because this was very exciting for me. We were covering Inter Miami's first match, as we mentioned, and my favorite memory of this day, there it is, was Mike Ryan's pink sports coat. It was the
yeah.
star of the show. I just remember having so much fun with you, and there was so much anticipation about Inter Miami's first season, and you were such a fan from the jump, being Miami born and bred, and I just loved that you walked into this like completely owning it, and like, yeah, I'm gonna wear the pink jacket and the aviators, and you looked like $1,000,000. But this is the thing that sticks out to me.
Yeah, it was very pink. I'll give that jacket that. Got some compliments, some of them I believe sarcastic. But when Taylor Twellman is around, you gotta step up your wardrobe. Man, look at that. A lot less gray in the beard
I
back
mean,
then.
it true. I'm like, oh geez, it's like we knew nothing. We didn't know it was
Uh,
coming, did we?
no, I had a
No.
feeling that Inter Miami as a brand was going to be onto something special, and they certainly fulfilled the promise of what they were aspiring to. But yeah, that's pretty much the only thing that went according to plan from that photo on. I mean, your name is even different now.
I know, it's crazy. God, got married, moved, got cancer, shit, all the
Yeah.
things. I mean, really, life comes at you fast, buddy.
Hmm.
So okay, this is obviously something that we did, and we're going to get into your love of soccer in a bit here, but I just want to get kind of into your career, because like I said, to me you're just one of the OGs, and so unique and authentic in what you've done with the LeBatard show. And I love your Blue Sky bio, says you're a maker of cool shit. And
Oh,
I love it, because like that's
wow.
exactly what you do. You actually live up to that description very, very well. But my question is, did you always know that you wanted to make cool shit?
I always knew I wanted to be in sports. That's funny. That shows you how long I've not checked the Blue Sky the Blue Sky account, because I think the job requirements have changed here in the last few months. Still part of cool shit. Still kind of making cool shit, but more centrally focused now on being an anchor to the LeBatard show. As you know, we've undergone this transitional time for our company and for our show, and we're trying to reinvent ourselves, and I have to kind of be sidecar for that because I'm one of the few familiar faces that are attached to this show. But I always knew that I wanted to be in sports, and it didn't take me very long to know that I wasn't very good at playing them, and it wasn't really taught to me, handed down. I don't have any cool stories about going to games with my dad or grandpa or mother. Anytime I tried to play sports, I wasn't very good at it. So I knew very early on I needed to be one of the guys that talked about it if I liked it. And I spent my teenage years being a sports fan, learning everything that I could, stats guy, knowing that I wanted to be a part of the game. When I was in high school, I caught wind of a career fair that the Miami Heat were hosting, and I met with all these teams and all these radio stations, and from there I got a internship with the Florida Panthers. I did that without getting a single dime from it, driving all the way up to Sunrise for a year and a half. Unfortunately, the sport was locked out the entire time I was working for the Florida Panthers.
Was that
So
2013? Was that the 2013
no,
strike?
no. This was the first one. I graduated high school in
geez.
04. So yeah, Panthers weren't very good. So I needed to get one of those real jobs. Got a real job. Was selling veterinary pharmaceuticals. A lot of cold calling. And while I was there, Susannah, I put this radio show on the internet to stream while I was at my desk, and it was a LeBatard show, and I totally fell in love with the show. It was very early goings of that show, not even a year in, I don't think. And I became part of the community around that. Emailers that would often write jokes and supplement the show, and the show was very interactive and different, and I knew I loved it. And the more I sat at that desk, cold calling, sending faxes about heartworm medication, I realized it's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to give sports another shot, and I emailed the radio station. And lucky for me, that Florida Panthers internship looked good on a sports radio resume. It drew eyes, and then I signed up for another 2 years of not getting paid to do stuff, but 20 plus years later, I'm here on a podcast interview with you talking about how I got into it. One thing led to another. My responsibilities on the show grew, as did the show. We went from this little AM radio station show in Miami to a big national show on ESPN. We were there for several years, and then we started our own media company and have this very successful partnership with DraftKings, and I've been along for the ride the entire way.
Man, look at you now. Look at you now. How long, Mike, did it take you to kind of like find your voice with the LeBatard show? Because I can imagine like that was probably intimidating and just, trying to find your lane where you could shine. Like, what was your process in sort of discovering who you were going to be? Like what your personality was going to be on that show?
Well, I've always heard it's a cliche, never get too comfortable. And I've been in the situation which things have made me uncomfortable so many times that I kind of want to be able to judge that for myself. I would love the opportunity to get comfortable, but as the show grew at a tremendous rate, so did the responsibility. So to answer your question, I got hired officially as a producer that would just handle guest booking, very limited on air stuff in 2007. And I finally got organized, and I finally had a network that was growing in terms of being able to get publicists and managers to get back to me. I finally started wrapping my head around what those duties entailed. And then in around 2010, 2011, our executive producer, who was so influential in shaping the sonic profile of our show, and he was a huge mentor of mine, he decided to move on to host his own morning show. And once again, I found myself in a role that I was in over my head for. And it took me quite some time in earning Dan's trust, because as executive producer, the big thing is making sure Dan can just trust you implicitly. And the guy that was the executive producer before is a guy that dated all the way back to college with him, was a good friend. I didn't have it like that. No. I was just starting to earn the trust for like the little corner that I occupied. But to answer your question, I think we owe a lot to LeBron James. In my career, I owe a lot to him. But I think once we got to ESPN and Dan knew that he could trust me to run that show and he felt good doing it, then the Miami Heat were so polarizing nationally. You had this segment of Heat fans that would defend them to the death, and largely everyone else in the nation didn't like them, was rooting against them. And so for us to occupy that pocket in which we were pro Miami, while everything around the Heat felt so big, I kind of found this pro Heat sports voice, and it allowed me to kind of spread my wings comedically, which is something that is hard to get down at first, but something that I'm proud of is the comedic timing on the show. I got enough reps and got comfortable enough in front of the microphone that now when you ask me that question, I just won't shut up.
You've honed your skills very well, Mike, and it has served you incredibly well. One of the things that I loved and didn't know about you until really we met was that you were a soccer fan. Like, you're actually a really big soccer fan. And we love asking people this on all of our kickback shows. But, what was your entry point to soccer? I know you grew up in Miami. Was it something that you were around as a kid?
So again, no. I mean, I remember the World Cup of the early '90s and what that meant, but there was no league, so no real momentum to push through. And then the rest of the World Cups were in different time zones and was hard to find. So I think the first time that the game reached out and grabbed me was around the '06 World Cup.
Mhm.
Where I was, out of school, able to actually watch these games. I had a little flirtation with it in '02. Waking up during summer vacation at 2 a.m. was cool. But then back then, the game, it wasn't like now where you can, be a Wrexham fan and watch every game.
Right.
Right. Back
Yeah,
then,
it was hard. You had
it,
to like go somewhere and find
yeah,
somewhere that was going to show it. Yeah, it was. I kind of miss those days in a way.
you
But
had to
yeah,
find
it
a
was the
bar that had
strugs.
the Satanta
Totally.
sports package.
Satanta.
Yeah,
Oh.
you if you wanted to be a fan of, Italian soccer, you would watch the games on tape delay. This wasn't that long ago.
It's true.
Now you can support anybody, but around '06, I'm part Italian, so I love that whole run. That really did a lot, and throughout the course of that tournament, I got introduced to these players that had been successful club players, but I had never been able to see them, didn't know where to find them. So I got introduced to the likes of Didier Drogba, and watching Drogba play. I was like, I want to watch this guy play more, but I don't have access to Ivory Coast football. Where does he play for a living? And it was Chelsea. And back then, Chelsea were like one of the handful of teams that you can find on television with some regularity. And so I do get accused of being a glory hunter. I wasn't really a glory hunter so much as I was just hunting a team that I could watch regularly, because back then it was very hard to do. It sounds like ancient times, given how readily available soccer is throughout streaming and throughout entertainment. But back then, you basically were confined to a couple mega brands, and we're hopeful that they were good enough for a consistent amount of time to remain relevant. And luckily, the soccer world kind of caught up to that. And now, like I said, you can support Swansea and never miss a second.
Yeah, you can watch it. Mike, I am so glad that you basically said that Didier Drogba was why you support Chelsea, because in my eyes, like, that's the only acceptable reason, because I give my Chelsea loving friends so much shit for being glory hunters. But when they say Didier Drogba, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. So, like, well done. I have a very funny Didier Drogba story for you. When he was still in Major League Soccer, it was my first season working for MLS. I was at the All-Star game in San Jose, and Didier Drogba was still playing for Montreal at the time. He was on the All-Star team. And I think he only played the first half, but he was the first one after the game to come out, and he had already showered and dressed because he had only played the first half. And I was like freaking out, like sweating. I was like, oh my God, it's Didier Drogba. And he came up to the step and repeat. And I don't know what happened to me, but I just said, "You smell really good." And then I was like, did my brain just completely melt? Like, what did you do, Susannah? Like, my first words to Didier Drogba was, "You smell really good." And it was just instinct, but he did smell really, really good. And he was lovely about it. And he's like, well, thank you very much. But then it was also
I gotta find that scent.
Like,
I want to smell like Didier
I
Drogba.
know, but that's my Didier Drogba story. But he's an absolute legend, and you have like completely justified your Chelsea fandom, because otherwise I was like, I don't get it. Mike's a smart guy. Like, why?
Look, to any
Why
casual to any casual soccer fan that ever is put in a situation where they have to defend their fandom, if you name drop Satanta Sports, it's always an easy dub.
Man, it's right into my heart. You get it, man. Okay, so obviously you're an Inter Miami supporter, and you've been that from the jump. Obviously, we were there the first match, but yeah, you're not one of these people that like jumped on the Messi bandwagon because that happened later. Like you have been there from the beginning. So
yeah, I still
you know,
sing about Lewis Morgan. I'm still like, yeah.
oh,
I was watching Roddy Pizarro last night play for Juarez, and a big smile washed over my face. But yeah, I mean, but the hope was that Inter Miami would become this club that
yeah,
would have its own brand new stadium in Miami and be able to attract stars. And it always sounded pie in the sky about Messi. But I remember our conversations back then. I'm like, no, we really believe this is going to happen. And it did. I'm really excited for this new chapter in the club. Look, I was a season ticket holder, because it kind of got a little too expensive to support Inter Miami to the degree that I was, and I wasn't all that interested in having a more diminished experience with my soccer. You know, once you get access to the hospitality lounge, it's hard to go back.
You can't
There's
go
no
back.
going back.
No.
So I doubled my efforts into the University of Miami, but I knew that I'd be more ready to support the club once it got a little closer to my home. People have no idea how far that stadium is from its fan base, especially the Hispanic Miami-Dade fans that live in Doral that go up there. You're talking about on a day, on a match day, there were games that took me 90 minutes to 2 hours to get to. The people that have been day one from this club have bought in on the pie in the sky dreams, and they became reality. They're now reigning champions, and I got to give ownership credit because they've been doubted. I mean, since this franchise's inception, it looked like it wasn't even going to become one. Really, it looked doomed from the start, and at every turn. Can you guys build this temporary venue where it looks like a jungle in Lockhart Stadium in time? They did that. Can you guys actually be an attractive destination for a superstar like Leo Messi? They did that. As everybody told them they were crazy and there was no validity to those reports. They did that. They became MLS champions. And now I drove by the stadium today and I'm like, man, how is that stadium going to open up in a month? It doesn't look like it's ready, but I'm done doubting the Moss family. They literally come through and they put their money where their mouth is when it comes to this franchise. And it's been a whirlwind. It got off to a rocky start, as we saw. I'm sure it's not what they totally envisioned when they first sat across David Beckham, but they're here now. And in 1 month's time, when they have the proper opening of a venue that is in Miami-Dade County, it'll be a huge day for sports in Miami and a huge day for a family that deserves to feel good about itself.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, it is incredible. It's like you said, you knew that it was going to be big. And yes, there were obviously some growing pains early on in the first few seasons, but what they have turned into, I was in Paris with my husband in January, and the amount of Inter Miami Leo Messi kits I saw in France was staggering. I mean, we couldn't believe it. We were like, this is truly a global brand. Do you ever feel a little guilty as a MLS fan that like your team is so stacked? And I know we can get into the financials and like, how are they getting this done? How are they signing all these amazing players? But when you look at the amount of talent on Inter Miami's roster, it's like, man, like it just doesn't even feel fair. Or do you just sit back and say, no, this is rad. My team's awesome.
Well, I guess cut to what I said about the Miami Heat and LeBron. There is just like a certain attitude from mainstream sports fans across the nation that Miami has bad sports fans and don't actually deserve any of the success. And I'm not even here to say that it's unfair, but there's plenty of people that do love their sports and they deserve it just as much as the next person. And just because it's sunny year round, it doesn't give, and they have to walk through snow, doesn't make them more of a fan. It just means they have crappier weather. But to your original point, I understand the league. I follow the sport closely enough to understand the league-wide conspiracy that Inter Miami just does whatever it wants. Okay.
I'm fine with it, by the way.
I don't think it's born from a bad place. I actually think MLS fans everywhere should count their lucky stars for the ambition of the Moss family that want to continue to buck against some of the older guard in MLS.
Mm-hmm.
I believe now with North America hosting a World Cup, I think we all in our heart of hearts thought the game would be further along at this moment in time
Yeah.
as we lead up to the World Cup. Now, it may provide an incredible launch pad and we may be able to do plenty with it after the fact. And the league is, with its calendar, at least for this summer, is well positioned to take advantage of that. But I think we collectively dropped the ball when it comes to this sport being where it needed to be with marquee names. The one club in MLS that well, there's a handful of outliers, but one of them is Inter Miami, and they are
100.
constantly pushing. And I'm sure you know, Susannah, from covering the league, how how many hackles this club raises behind the scenes. And that's not a bad thing. I think you need to push, push, push right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't really affect any of the it doesn't affect if you're a Sporting KC fan, yeah, you may be thinking like, is this cap circumvention? I think you should still be grateful that they're trying to push boundaries forward because you'll be along for that ride too. They're trying to be the rising tide that elevates the entire league, and it's always born of ambition and trying to be better. And it's not always motivated by the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the franchise value has grown since they've brought in Messi, but these aren't decisions based in financial sense. They're competitive decisions. They are pushing the boundaries of this league because they want the league to be as aggressive as they are, and they're
That's
not matching
exactly
them.
it. That's
And that's
exactly
a kind of outside the box thinking that I think MLS has long since been starved for.
Mm-hmm. I could not agree with you more. I just it's every club should look at what Inter Miami is doing and what they are doing to actually elevate the league and the awareness, not just in North America, globally, and take notes and do that. And I think that, yeah, it's really easy for, somebody in Kansas City to be like, well, it's not fair. And it's like, well, maybe get some better ownership and make some changes. So I'm 100% with you. I think anything to grow the game, grow the sport. My question for you right now is, though, like, at some point, Lionel Messi is going to retire. He's not going to be there anymore. So what needs to happen in order to maintain those fans in Miami, for example, people that may not have paid attention to soccer, but they know that Leo Messi plays on this team? How do you keep those fans engaged and keep them coming back and wanting to go to matches and wanting to watch these games?
Well, unfortunately for them, they won't have a data point to know how this club will perform without Messi in that shirt as they open a new stadium. You could always count on a new stadium that is more centrally located to your fan base, always giving you a bump. And I thought Miami drew pretty well in their early going. People were excited to see it, even though it required a lot of its fan base, most of the fans making a very long commute. But the club has an ID. It's got a DNA, and embedded in that DNA is a big time marketable superstar that you can put in front of all the cameras and sell all those jerseys. So to answer your question, I think once Messi retires, they'll be on the chase for the next Messi, a younger one, someone else that can move the needle, because that's what's always worked for this franchise, both on the field in terms of success and off the field in terms of global brand recognition. So I would feel very strongly that they would have a plan in place to go get somebody else that can carry that on, because you're then talking about, if they continue to stack success and you look at their success in the Club World Cup, in terms of a brand and value, and considering how the financial troubles in South America, despite these really incredible brands, Inter Miami as a brand could be one of the most valuable in all the Americas in just a couple years' time. So I think them not just sitting back and looking at the revenue generated by Messi is going to make them fat and happy. I think that they're constantly forward thinking. What else can we do? They're constantly pushing. Who's next? And I think they'll do that. And I think they do understand the opportunity that's in front of them is like, we can, in a very short amount of time, microwave what is a legacy respected brand.
100%. I mean, Inter Miami, like you said, they They do so many things right. But recently, you had some strong things to say about a trip to the White House that the team made to Donald Trump. Invited them as MLS Cup winners, and I loved what you said. I loved what you said about athletes and teams that get these invites need to stop allowing themselves to be used as props, essentially. Trump basically aligning himself with superstars so that it kind of shields him in a way where he is then associated with something that people think are positive. And I could not agree more with that sentiment, because it just felt seeing the pictures just felt like icky. It was like, no, this is my safe space. I want this to still feel like a safe space for me. And I just think it begs the question, like, how, especially with the World Cup coming up too, how do we as fans or teams, what do teams and athletes need to do to kind of separate the politics and the sports, to almost preserve the sanctity of why people love it?
Yeah. Wow. That's a difficult question to answer, because I think this administration, for better or worse, is really good at grabbing at sports to normalize it, to make it almost unavoidable. Like we talked about my Chelsea fandom. When we won the Club World Cup, Donald Trump was on the stage. And he wasn't supposed to be, but he was smart enough or unaware enough to just hang around, and he's in every photo. And it does kind of affect my relationship with that. And trust me, I try to just sit there and swallow it. I'm a University of Miami fan, right? And everybody has a custom hat that's TR with the big U, MP, and I just deal with it, But there are certain things that are just unavoidable, and I think this World Cup, it's going to be pretty unavoidable, to silo the politics, given everything that's happening in this nation. I don't have good advice for how fans do it, because what I've been doing, Susannah, is I've been having to swallow it and not be happy with it, and my only recourse is to go in front of a microphone, let out some steam, and then try to get involved locally with politics and campaigns to do something about it at the polling place. I do think that it is, remember, around the pandemic, we had the Golden State Warriors were the first team to decide we're not going to do this.
Yep.
It doesn't align itself with our brand, and we have too much internal strife. It's just not worth it. And they caught a lot of crap for it at the time. And then who was the second team? Most people don't remember. The second team was the Philadelphia Eagles in 2018. And then the pandemic came, and very few teams actually went. And I had totally forgotten, in 2023, the Georgia Bulldogs said no thanks to Joe Biden. So this isn't something that you actually have to respect. It's not. Look, the team went to the White House to celebrate a championship. I get it. I certainly understand why ownership would be interested in going to the White House. I understand. That's a huge tradition for champions, and some teams are willing to overlook all the politics of it. Cool. You know what else is rich in tradition and something that you historically do after you win a title? Have a parade. They didn't do that, so I didn't see the big deal in not good. And also deciding to eschew the White House. And when I first started this point about Inter Miami, it was on the heels of the college football roundtable and Trump reaching out to sports plenty to try to normalize him. And it only seems like the world has gotten crazier since then. But when I went down that path, I made a very clear statement in that what is happening right now is not what anybody signed up for if you looked at pre-election polling. And I'm sorry that this actually gets political, but nobody was with going into another war. He won an election by saying he wasn't. He won an election by saying he was going to release certain files. There is very clearly an active cover-up with human traffickers not actually being arrested. There is all this other thing, all this other stuff that is going on politically that is unprecedented. ICE in the streets, all of this stuff needs to be in public forums criticized, dissected, and in most cases, in my opinion, opposed. And when Leo Messi goes over there and just does what he's always done, does what he's always done as a professional, which is, shake hands with who he's told to shake hands with and take the photo ops and generally be apolitical, he's got to understand that he's doing a lot to advance the cause. When I first said that stuff about Inter Miami going, it was pretty flimsy compared to the other sports and politics takes that I had. And 12 hours later, Donald Trump essentially declared an economic war against Spain. just out of nowhere. And now you have Barca legends going to the White House. Are they going to weigh in on this trade deal? And the president is the kind of dude that, wait, we can actually spin this into a victory if you're Spanish and are protecting their interests, because he listens to people like, Luis Suarez on economic policy. He'd do that. But that wasn't really the case. It was just photo ops that will age poorly with an administration that will be remembered for a lot of things, but I think most of them ushering in a whole new world order. Say whatever you will, and our ability to drag ourselves out of this. I think the rest of the world now knows that America isn't this set product anymore. Regime change can fluctuate wildly. You could always count on the ideals of America being consistent, and they have changed, right?
Yeah.
We are a wild variable right now that has probably forever changed the soft comforts of the American life that we've gone accustomed to, where you can travel all the world and speak English and generally be respected. I don't know if that's going to be the case for our children growing up in this world, or the next generation. And I think a lot of athletes are making a long-term mistake for short-term clout.
Yeah. And I feel like part of me sympathizes with them, because it's like, well, they didn't ask to be put in this position. They didn't ask to take a stand either way. Like, their job is to perform on the field, on the pitch, on the court, whatever. But considering how big and how just seismic what is happening is right now, it does feel like there is an element of social responsibility that these people, as public figures that have huge followings, have to take. And I think, you and I are in line where it's like, it's black and white, like you're either on the right side or the wrong side. And it sucks. To me, it sucks so bad that it's infiltrated sports in a way where it used to be such a, an escape for people. And it feels almost impossible. Those lines are so blurred right now. And when we have been working in the soccer space, Mike, we have been talking about 2026 for so long. The World Cup is coming to North America in 2026. We have been building up to this for the last 8+ years, and it is now here. And it feels so heavy. I love watching World Cups. I'm sure you do too. You've talked about it. And now I'm struggling to, I feel like, my excitement level has been squandered a bit, because I don't know what it's going to look like, because the politics have become so invasive. And for you, when you think about this summer, what do you think, how are you going to kind of separate what's going on in the world and just enjoy it? Or is that even possible?
Look, it's a World Cup. I'll find a way to enjoy it. It's not the first World Cup where I haven't felt great about the business behind it or the morals attached to it. I just never thought that would be the case for the American one. That's where it's really disappointing. I think what you're giving voice to is when this was first announced, or the possibility of the U.S. hosting a World Cup was first announced. You were talking amongst your friends and saying, like, man, imagine how far we're going to come as a sporting nation, as a soccer nation by then. And it's not all off the field stuff. Look, on the field, they miss a huge opportunity. They miss out on a World Cup. What was positioned as a golden generation, has had infighting and entitlement and regime change. It hasn't gone the way that we thought. at all, really. And I'm reconciling my own disappointment in what the soccer movement has done with the opportunity in the runway. And I juxtapose it to what the country is right now, which is this was supposed to be a big festive opportunity for us to show the world that they can take us seriously from a soccer sense. And now I don't even know if they take us seriously just from a political sense. They probably don't. I can't put my best soccer foot forward if I can't put my best foot forward, right? And that is what's difficult to reconcile with as we head into this World Cup. I don't have an answer for you. I'm going to do my best.
Yeah.
I'm going to enjoy talking about it. I'm going to enjoy watching the games. I'm worried about.
Are you going to any games?
Yeah, I have tickets to one. I'm going to France, Senegal, in New York, and hopefully some other opportunities will find me, and I'll be eager to do that. I've always wanted to watch this.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully I get to watch the U.S. in person too. That'd be cool. But yeah, I guess the disappointment is already here.
Yeah.
You know, it's already not. I already know entering it that it's not going to live up to what I was hoping it would be. So I guess my advice would be lower your expectations and really pay attention to the news cycle to become so disenchanted with the entire thing that it can only go up from here.
It can only go up. That's it. That's it. We're here. We're going there. No, that's actually pretty sound advice. Miami is a host city, obviously. What's kind of the hype around it right now? Is there an awareness that this is coming this summer in Miami?
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
It's inescapable. I take public transportation. It's everywhere. I hope we do better than how we did for the Copa America final. I was there for that.
Oh, geez.
That was insane. But since then, we've hosted, FIFA Club World Cup matches, and some of those matches had incredible atmosphere. The World Cup games that are down here, especially the Portugal match against Colombia, right? Like that is one of the hottest tickets in the history of the South Florida market, and it's going to be Miami's actually a great World Cup city because of how multicultural it is. I am not Colombian, but you can bet your bottom dollar that I got a number 10 James yellow jersey in my closet because, every 2 years that puppy needs to come out to be part of the party.
The Colombia kits are also sick. They're always so good.
Yeah, but the Colombians throw the best parties.
Yeah.
Like they got the best watch parties. They got the best atmospheres. Everybody needs the yellow James in their closet so they can go out and pretend they're Colombian for a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I'm really looking forward to that and all that travels with it. And for not just the stadium to come alive, but for the city to come alive, because it's going to, with a fan fest, at least I think it's still happening, it's going to be a vibrant hub, gateway to the Americas. And I hope for the most part, the politicians know to stay away from it too. There's also something to be said for unpopular politicians getting the point, staying away when they're not wanted. And I think Trump got that point in San Francisco with the Super Bowl. He was advised that it probably wasn't going to go the way that he wants. It'll be curious to see how many games he attends. I assume he's going to attend a few, given how intertwined Infantino has seemingly. He was at the Board of Peace meeting. What are we doing? That's also another thing, Susanna. Like, how am I supposed to separate politics from sports when the sporting personalities are willingly giving themselves over to politics to be used? Like Infantino, that should be a net neutral position. Nope. What am I supposed to do with it?
Nope. If Trump's got him in his back pocket. Yeah, you're 100% correct there. I think you're right. We're just gonna have to kind of find our joy and stick with that and try to funnel out all the ugliness around it. But when you think back to 1994 and the last time the U.S. hosted a World Cup, it was we always talk about it. It was just such a jumping off point for the sport here. And, obviously the creation of Major League Soccer and just the buildup, I think one of the things that we always talk about in the soccer media space is how do we capitalize on this? And what is going to happen this summer. So, especially being in the media, and, what do you think, how would you like to see, I guess, this World Cup covered? How are you guys going to be talking about it on the LeBatard show in a way that will make people want to pay attention afterwards?
I've thought long and hard about this, and I do think I'm going to apply pressure to Dan, as producers all across the nation should apply pressure on their talents. I think that we're a nation that just pays attention to the NBA, pro football, and college football too, but ESPN is a straw that stirs a drink. And for half of their day block, it's older generation Northeasterners that only pay attention to two sports. And I know I don't want to talk about soccer like it's a novelty, especially not when they're hosting a World Cup. I really hope that big time money making personalities actually put their brains to work and try to learn about this so they can speak about this sport with some level of expertise. But I'm not even saying like, tell me what formation Senegal should be using. Learn the names, learn a handful of names, learn a handful of the stories, know where the matches are, know what the group standings are right now, what the scenarios are going forward, when the knockout, like base level stuff. I know for Meadowlark and the Dan LeBatard show, our plan is to cover it like it's the biggest thing in the world. We're not going to laugh. We're not going to make fun of it.
Yes, let's go.
I think it's important to normalize that this is no longer niche, and we were all hoping that this would be, when it was first put on our radar, that this would be the United States' opportunity to have this sport talked about like it belongs, like to slide into the spot that baseball occupied once. We're no longer a fringe sport. You're going to learn these names. You're going to learn these players. You're going to learn about academies. And I hope that the games are gripping enough that it turns people on to it, and it can further grow momentum. I think ultimately this isn't going to be what we thought it was going to be. I thought that this was a time to cash in and a moment of arrival. And it's very clear from where I'm sitting that we haven't arrived yet. We've got so much further to go. So now let's use this to bridge a gap and really hit the ground running. I'm excited that MLS is making changes to their calendar. I'm excited that things changed with the subscription model. This game needs to be more accessible. This game is played in favelas with things that are used in place of balls, right? Rolled up socks can be used to play this sport. This is not an expensive sport to play at its heart, but it is in this nation. The game is not accessible when it should be the most accessible game on the planet. That's why it's the world's biggest game. So I hope we learn those lessons.
Say it louder for the people in the back, Mike Ryan. That's incredible. Before I let you go, I just have 5 quick fire questions for you that we like to ask our guests here on Open Mic. So just the, first thing that comes to mind for you. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. Who is your favorite athlete?
Favorite athlete ever?
Ever.
Wow. Okay. I know this is supposed to be rapid fire. Right now it's Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield. Okay.
I'm a Baker Mayfield guy.
I love it. There's nothing wrong with that. We love Baker Mayfield. Okay. What's your walk-up song?
My walk-up song? Look, as a child of the FIFA video game, song number 2 by Blur seems to be a pretty good way to get the party started.
Killer. Great shout. Your favorite sound in sports?
My favorite town in sports? Sound in sports. This one's a very unpopular one. I don't like baseball, right? But everybody would romanticize the crack of the bat. Down here, though, we're a college baseball power, and the ping of an aluminum bat resonating off the concrete walls of Marklight Stadium in Coral Gables. The ping of a college baseball bat.
I like that one. It's very good. Your favorite World Cup moment ever?
Favorite World Cup moment ever? The 2006 final. And the theater of Zidane and the headbutt and France playing right into the cagey Italian game plan of absorb the pressure and let's take it to PKs. That World Cup had so many incredible moments. But I will say, somewhere in my home, there is a painting of Landon Donovan's huge goal against Algeria. And that one kind of really solidified my passion for the game. It's one of my favorite sporting moments ever.
Can't go wrong there. Lastly, who is going to win the 2026 World Cup?
Who is going to win the 2026 World Cup? Man, that one is very tricky. I think it's going to be a replay the last time that this country came here. I hope they put it all together. I think Brazil's got the talent. I like France, but France is going to have some difficulty along the way. That match with Senegal that I'm going to, that one's going to be a spicy one. I'm gonna default and say I think that the talent of Brazil, with it being in this part of the world, they'll put it together. But I think it's anybody's game. This is more wide open than some of the other World Cups that we've seen recently. I'm pumped. Also depends on how much Ronaldo's going to play. If he's not playing that much, I actually think Portugal can make a run.
Isn't that wild? To say?
But I trust them more without him. I like their brand of play
100%.
Without him.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh, great stuff. Mike Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on Open Mic. How can people find you and follow you if they're not already listening to the LeBatard show? They should be, but what else you got going on?
Well, I don't have the Chelsea pod anymore to promote people there. I'm sure you're pretty happy about that, but I do.
The more soccer content, the better.
On top of LeBatard Show, which you can follow on all our social channels at LeBatard Show, youtube.com/@LeBatard Show. On top of that, I also have a media company that focuses primarily and exclusively on Miami Hurricanes athletics, and I'm very proud of Canes Insight. So if you're listening to this and you're a fan of the Miami Hurricanes, Canes Insight for all your Miami Hurricanes needs.
What a legend. Mike Ryan, thank you so much. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you for having me. It's great speaking with you again after all these years.
Well, a huge, huge thank you to Mike Ryan for taking the time to join us here on Open Mic. So many good takeaways and just thoughts from that conversation. So please make sure you follow him and listen to all of his incredible work on the LeBatard show. And I just want to thank you guys for listening. We're having so much fun here with Open Mic, and I hope you'll keep coming back for more conversations with some of your favorite sports personalities. Also, make sure to download and subscribe to all of our podcasts, including Kickback Committee, Soccer Wise, and First Touch. Subscribe to our newsletters, follow us on the socials, and most importantly, tell your friends, because sharing is caring, people. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll be talking soon.